Today we look at 5-star high school prospects that turned out to be busts in the NBA. Listen, to get ranked 5 stars as one of the top players in the country in your class, you have to be an amazing basketball player. But clearly that doesn't always transfer over, as most of the top prospects rarely ever translate to the league, so a disconnect happens between high school and the NBA, and we're going to be looking at some of the biggest cases over the past 15 years, starting with the most recent and working our way back. Now, starting first in the 2019 recruiting class, James Wiseman was the #1 overall center and easily the #1 overall player, and it made sense. He was 6'9" and 200 pounds as a freshman. So he was a 5-star recruit all 4 years that he was in high school. And he just got better and better every season until he got to the top. He dominated basketball games as a senior, putting up 25, 15, and 5 on the year, so he rightfully deserved the ranking that he got. He then went off to college playing 3 games for Memphis, averaging 20 and 10 on 80% shooting before getting suspended for the year for accepting money from head coach Penny Hardaway to move to the school. Well, even that was enough to still get him drafted 2nd overall. And he's only played 39 games in 2 seasons so far, and came off the bench for 12 of them because he wasn't playing defense, keeping up on offense, and was just too scared to shoot. Things are still up in the air for James Wiseman, but let's just hope he doesn't come back from injury still looking scared to be playing in the NBA. Now, that same year, Cole Anthony was the #2 recruit in the nation. He was the best point guard in his draft class and had been since his sophomore season. By the time he was a senior, with his size and athleticism, he was pretty unanimously picked to be the #1 overall pick in that year's draft. Well, then he went to UNC. Some of his flaws came out, and even though he had injuries, the team had a pretty disappointing season, so he fell all the way to the 15th pick that year, and I think teams got it right with him. We're seeing the same thing that happened with a guy like Austin Rivers. Sure, he's athletic and looked flashy in high school, which was enough to get him noticed, but the skill's not there, which is why his shooting percentages are so low. He seems like a much better role player than a star of any team. RJ Hampton was another guy that year that garnered national attention and had a lot of eyes on him, and that was thanks to him being a 6'6" point guard that was a top 5 player in the nation. And he even averaged 30 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 blocks, and 2 steals in high school. Well, then he decided to go play pro ball in the NBL instead of going to college so he could play with grown men. Well, he went into the season being a top 5 projected draft pick, but then averaged 8 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists a game in the NBL. So he instead was drafted with the 24th overall pick after his draft stock shot down. And it also didn't help his case that the NBA comparison became Dante Exum, and we all know how he turned out. Well, kind of the same thing's been happening for RJ. He's coming off the bench, putting up average numbers at best, and really struggling to even make an impact on the league at all. So a lot changed for him since that high school ranking. Now, the last one from 2019 is Nikko Mania, and he was something special before getting into the NBA. He got his first college scholarship offer in the 8th grade, had a historic high school career even after that, averaging 36 and 6 as a senior, making him the #1 overall prospect in the class of 2020. But when he took extra classes to graduate a year early, he was then reclassified to the 2019 class, where he was still a 5-star recruit, but now ranked 9th in the nation, making him projected to be a top 10 pick in the draft when he got there. But after his 1 season of college, he fell all the way to the 48th pick in the 2nd round. He went from a national star to an afterthought once getting to the NBA level, and now he's out of the league after only 1 year with the Warriors. It seems like the narrative really switched on him so quickly, and for him to already be out of the league isn't a good sign at all, especially after only averaging 4 points a game for Golden State. In 2018, first up we have Bol, who when he was in high school was actually a freak of nature. He was already 7'2", playing like a guard, and one of the most watched kids in the country. He was being compared as a taller Kevin Durant that was better on defense. So he was actually the 4th highest rated recruit in his class, behind only RJ Barrett, Zion, and Cam Reddish. And his standing reach combined with his wingspan and skill set had him ranked unanimously as the #1 center in the country at the time, which got him 9 different college offers from some of the best schools in the country. And entering his first season at Oregon, he was predicted to be a top 3 to 10 pick in the next year's draft. Well, even after a great year, it was cut short due to a foot injury, and then he fell all the way to the 2nd round and the 44th pick in the draft. And honestly, it was the right move, because after coming into the league with all this hype that he had, in the past 3 years, he's averaged 2 points, 1 rebound, and 6 minutes a game, with no signs of turning things around on his new team in the Orlando Magic. And it turns out that his size would actually be his biggest downfall. He's too tall and slow to play in the backcourt, and too skinny and weak to play in the frontcourt, so he really doesn't fit in the league, making him a bust up until this point. But we mentioned Cam Reddish earlier, and like I said, in 2019 he was the 3rd highest ranked high school recruit, only behind RJ Barrett and Zion, 2 guys who have gone on to play at an all-star level, while Reddish, well, he's turned into a bench player 3 years in, and never really got off to a good start. You see, in high school he was a 6'7" small forward with all the basic skills and physical attributes needed to succeed, and he did. But then he gets overshadowed at Duke by RJ and Zion, only averaging 13 points a game on bad shooting numbers, and really failed to live up to the hype. But when he still manages to get taken 10th overall by the Hawks based on his potential, well, up until now, maybe that was a mistake. Sure, he's had some bad injuries and has missed about half the games that have gone on since he's been in the league, but even then he looks sloppy on the court, shoots bad shots, gives up open looks to teammates, and has had the worst plus minus on the entire Hawks team while there, and continued to hold that spot on the Knicks when he got traded. So not a good look for Cam. I'm not saying it's over for him, but he's taken a big drop since being a 5-star recruit in high school. Now we go to the 2017 class, and Marvin Bagley III was a rare case. He was a superstar in high school, being the #1 overall prospect of his class, a 5-star recruit, and putting up monster games getting him recruited by Duke. And even once he got there, he continued to dominate, putting up multiple 30 and 10 and even 30 and 20 games. So he entered the NBA draft, was picked 2nd overall, then almost instantly became a bust. He came off the bench nearly every game, averages about 14 points a game, and can't shoot threes, which is his second biggest problem. His first is that he's always going to be known as the guy picked one spot ahead of Luka Doncic. I feel like Mo Bamba is another one of these guys. In 2017, he was the 4th overall prospect in his class, being a pretty good player but an elite shot blocker all through high school and college. Then when he got to the NBA draft combine, measured 7'1" with an NBA record 7'10" wingspan, while running faster than most of the NBA and even Russell Westbrook. So there was no doubt that he was going to be a lottery pick based solely off of that. And he was, which is why he was drafted 6th overall by the Magic. And since then, well, he hasn't really stood out or been heard from by most of the league. So he did deserve a mention in this video, but I will say this last season was his first full one as a starter, and he averaged 10 and 8 on 38% from 3. So I'm kind of excited to see what's next. Of course, in 2014, we know that Jalil Okafor was a 5-star recruit and the #1 overall ranked in the nation. And not much changed once he got to the NBA draft, with him being taken 3rd overall. But after only 6 seasons in the NBA, he went from the top of the top all the way to being out of the league. While in 2013, a guy like Jabari Parker was always one that surprised me with where he ended up. You see, he was a major star in high school, getting recruited by over 11 major schools after just his freshman year. As a sophomore, he was ranked top 5 in his class, and after his senior season, he was ranked #2 overall, just behind Andrew Wiggins. So he ended up going to Duke, and after that year, the draft came. And it really was 50-50 on who was going to go first. It was either going to be Parker or Wiggins, and the other without question was going to be taken with the 2nd pick. So Jabari went 2nd to the Bucks, but the only problem was that his draft comparison was Carmelo Anthony, and he really did play like him too. So even though by year 3 he was averaging 20 points a game, he was kind of a one-dimensional player that just wasn't going to work in most systems, which is why ever since his 3rd year, and thanks to injuries, he barely ever started a game since then, and most likely will not be on a team next season, while Wiggins just played like a superstar on a championship team. Of course, the 2012 class brought us Nerlens Noel and Anthony Bennett. Noel was an elite shot blocker in his pre-NBA days and limited on offense, which other teams should have seen but didn't, which is why he's where he's at today in the league. And Anthony Bennett, well, he was the 7th best player in his recruiting class, then everything else from there was just directly downhill. Well, aside from him getting taken 1st overall. Now in 2011, Austin Rivers is always one of the guys that stands out in these conversations, because him being the #1 ranked point guard in the country, along with his hoop mixtape, had people sure he was going to be a future NBA star. He had everyone fooled, and with the dude making plays like this, it was hard not to be. But his skill and super athleticism early on are what we really have to thank. And I'm actually really surprised he made it out of Duke with so much hype, because he didn't have the best college run, but was still drafted 10th overall. And it's not that he's really been a bust since then, but he's been a role player, and it was just a much different path than a lot of people thought he'd be taking. The year of 2009 was an interesting one, because we had Harrison Barnes as the top 5-star prospect, then Jared Sullinger, both ranked above Kyrie Irving, then immediately after that there's Brandon Knight. So this was all wrong. Harrison Barnes never turned into a star in the league, but he's been a good role player. He just happened to be 6'7" and way more athletic than everyone else in high school, and kind of peaked early on, which is how he got that ranking. Jared Sullinger dominated players before and during college, but only lasted 5 seasons in the league as a 6'9", 270-pound power forward. I feel like teams thought he was going to grow more into his body, but he just never really did. But of course, Brandon Knight being just 1 spot behind Kyrie Irving is just laughable at this point. In 2008, there wasn't a ton of notable 5-star recruits turned NBA bust. We had Brandon Jennings 1st overall, but his career mainly ended because of an injury, so he gets a pass. We did have Tyrique Evans though, who at times was compared to Tracy McGrady in high school, and was a 6'6" player playing point guard. He then dominated in 1 year at college, so he was drafted 4th, where he would have the best rookie season since LeBron James, and thought to be a guy starting to revolutionize the league with positionless basketball. Well then, oddly enough, it was kind of all downhill from there, and he just got worse and worse every season until he eventually got banned from the league for 2 years. He just got reinstated a few months ago, but it looks like he's not going to be getting picked up anytime soon. But then again, we saw the same exact thing with a player from the 2007 class in OJ Mayo. OJ was one of the very few players compared to LeBron before getting into the league, but he was a superstar from a young age, playing high school varsity basketball while in the 7th grade and averaging 23 points a game. And in 8th grade, he put up 27 a game. So by the time he got to high school, he was drawing crowds of 16,000 people to come watch him play. He was considered a lock to play professionally straight out of high school until the NBA added the one and done rule. But it's okay because he was still the #3 overall prospect in the nation and a national superstar. So he went to USC for 1 year before he was drafted 3rd overall. OJ would then have a monster first year, finishing as the runner-up for the Rookie of the Year award to Derrick Rose, averaging 18, 3, and 3. Well, the next 2 years, things went downhill. Year 2 was good, but in year 3, he got in a fight with Tony Allen on the team plane, then tested positive for steroids and was suspended 10 games. And from there on out, he was in and out of starting lineups for the rest of his career until he got banned for 2 years from the league for another banned substance. He's played overseas ever since, but never been in the NBA. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, don't forget to subscribe, and I'm out.